This video was brought to you by my patrons, specifically Logan Shepherd Scally. In previous videos, I've spoken about Ava as a person, not so much touching on the game apart from superficial things such as the perverted subject matter and all that kind of lovely shit. But in this video, not episode, video, I want to talk about the game, less so as a game and more so as a collection of ideas, and how, while these ideas have minor flaws, Ava's execution of them are actually incredibly fucked up. He says he envisions the game, well no, sorry, he doesn't say envision, he just says the game is a mix between Persona 5 and Hitman. I don't think I have to explain that mixing those two things would be mixing oil and water. But they just don't really go together without major changes to his ideas. A lot of it revolves around, instead of using fucking Japanese high school as a base, actually use the ideas that Persona gives you with Hitman's base and all that lovely shit. It basically just means that you use things like the metaverse a bit often, but we'll get into that in a second. So how do you actually take a game that is a stealth assassination and then proceed to mix it with a game that has enough words to write Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone almost 4 times over? The answer is, you kinda can't unless you do a few very specific things. I've got a bit of a checklist, and I'm just gonna go over the first bit because it's actually quite important. Given that Persona is a slice-of-life game, don't set it in a country you're not familiar with, Alex. This means not setting it in Japan, because despite the fact that I'm a much better writer than Alex and I know quite a bit about Japan, I still do not feel confident that even I could accurately portray Japanese culture, let alone Mr. Man. For me, that would mean setting the game in the UK, specifically either the Midlands or Wales, because those are the two places I'm familiar with in the UK the most, and the culture surrounding them. It's basically just heavy drinking and abusing your wife. For Alex, that would mean kind of like, what, California, I think he lives? So heavy drinking and abusing your wife. Also, just don't set it in a fucking high school, you pervert. Like, come the fuck on, man. I'm sorry, but like, they're kids. They're school children. Stop with the upskirt shots and the fucking sexual connotations and selling body pillows of them. No, but yeah, just don't set it in Japan, because you know nothing about Japan, and you seem to not understand that you, since about 2013-ish, you can't actually get held back in Japan, which means that characters that are in the second year are almost definitely minors, you fucking pervert. Secondly, use the idea of the metaverse. I don't mean straight up rip it off from Persona, because that would be a bit shitty, but make your own version and kind of make some changes to it. For example, let's say that you want to move a weapon or something, and you need a weapon when you're in your version of the metaverse, right? You could pick it up, put it in a different place in real life, and then it would be there in the metaverse. This heavily relies on Persona elements, but oh well. Let's imagine for a second this scenario. You have a rival who wants to also go after Senpai. Sorry, took some psychic damage there. And you want to get rid of her. In your version of the metaverse, in this version of the game in general, you have 2 options now. You can kill her in the metaverse, causing her mysterious death in real life, a la Goro Akechi from Persona 5, or, if you have a good enough relationship with her, you could convince her metaverse counterpart that she doesn't love him, therefore making it so that you don't have to get rid of her because she sets her sights somewhere else. This, again, really heavily relies on Persona elements, and you are slightly just making a Persona fan game with a darker twist, but it's actually a lot better than the current concept of the game, let's be fucking honest, because currently you are essentially killing someone in a school, then returning to the scene of the crime for a test 2 days later. Not the smartest move for a murderer in general, and currently the game's way too easy because there's just one elimination method that for the current rival Osana that is the one that he obviously wants you to go with. So it's just really fucking easy. Thirdly, you've already really kind of got the idea of schedules in the game right now, so why not go the whole hog with it? Why not essentially just expand on that idea, right? Everyone has a schedule in the game around their school day. Let's go another step. Put that schedule on weekends. Put that schedule after school and before school. Give the player time to play before school and after school, because currently as it stands, there's no point to anything outside of the school. Weekends you should just skip, although the demo doesn't have weekends, so we don't even know how they're going to work. On top of that, why not self-balancing? Why not having to balance your own schedule? For example, having to get a job in order to earn money and buy food. You are slightly making it a simulation now and making it a bit more in-depth, but honestly, with stuff like this, you kind of start to get it closer to a living, breathing world, and you start to get closer to slice of life, which is what Alex clearly wants. Also, ditch those creepy school uniforms. They're middle school, fuck off. By adding things like jobs and having to get closer to your targets if you want to eliminate them in a non-lethal way, you are actually fleshing out your game. You're making it so that murder knife move isn't your only way of killing someone within the actual game, which fleshes out the game, makes a living, breathing world, makes the world feel alive, makes everyone feel like they actually have a life and aren't just there for you to be fucking stabbing them in the neck with a janky animation that makes the fucking knife clip through the actual model rather than having any sort of, I don't know, injury. But what about the Hitman mechanics, I hear you commenters cry. Don't fucking worry. What you could do is add the disguise mechanic from Hitman, because I know that this is actually the part of Hitman that a lot of people enjoy the most, because it's actually a really cool little gameplay loop. Find someone who's wearing the clothes you want, kill them, take their clothes, and use it to gain access to new areas. If you have a version of the metaverse in your version of the game now, well, you can still apply that. Let's say that certain areas of the metaverse are off limits to what a fucking stupid name. And so, you now have to find disguises and actually think about making your moment, as it were. You now have to find alternative ways to your target. Oh wait, now I'm just describing Persona and finding a way to the treasure, but that doesn't matter, because at this point you're making a much better game that people are going to be more invested in. Every character at the moment feels like a blank slate with like fucking hair and eyes and no real personality. So choose a very few students and actually make them people. Keep the rest as kind of background and stuff, but take a few that are going to be important and make them into real people. And make it so you can have relationships with them. Not romantic friendship, because I know that to you, Alex, everything has to be about romance and sex, but make it so that you can make friends. I know that doesn't fit with the character of Ayano, but that's because she's written very badly. You could argue that the ideas presented in this script so far could make an incredibly bloated and unsatisfying game, but guess fucking what, guys? Yandere Simulator is already incredibly bloated and incredibly unsatisfying to play. I mean, the fuckers added side streets with a music shop for no fucking reason. 1980s mode is already playable before the game's release. Like, the game's already too much. He hasn't even finished the main fucking thing. He hasn't even implemented all 10 rivals. And let's be honest, with how long it took him to implement Osana, I highly doubt he's ever going to. But the game's already too bloated. And if you do it well, and by doing it well I mean hiring a project director who isn't Alex Mann, you can actually get a pretty decent game out of it, and you could get a very streamlined and sleek experience with deadlines and, you know, shit like that, like Persona uses. Because I can't begin to stress how much Yandere Simulator is already a shit Persona fan game without Persona mechanics, but with Persona mechanics at the same time. It's just the mechanics that make Persona a drag, rather than mechanics that make Persona fun. I have very complex feelings on the Persona series. That's a video for a different fucking time, honestly. The best way to fix the game and make it less bloated would be scrap everything you have. Do what Kappa Kaiju said. Basically make the game you and Osana in a school where you then build up everything around it. Even if you're not going for the Persona Shin Megami Tensei kind of deal with the metaverse. Just start from scratch, because as he's got it now, it's just way too bloated and unfinished and a drag. Yeah, it's a bit shit. The game's just a bit shit. But now that I've done talking about my ideas on how to fix the game, I think we should go on to talking about things such as the performance. Yeah, folks, you've heard everyone harp on about this shit before, but the performance is dire. Like, for what the game looks like, with trees that look like they're from Morrowind and character models that look like they're from every porn game ever made in the last 10 years, the performance is just, it's not it. It's just not it. So, we actually did a test, right? Me and the camera person, we did a test. See, I built the camera person's editing rig. It's just an editing rig, so it didn't need a powerful graphics card, right? It currently runs 32 gigabytes of RAM with a Ryzen 5600G, which is one of the better Ryzens, which has integrated Vega 64 graphics, which is actually pretty decent, and it was running off an SSD, I believe, the actual game. So, tell me, pray tell, please do tell, how a computer of that magnitude managed to get massive frame drops whenever loading new areas, barely managed to hold 60 for more than 5 seconds at a time, and reached lows of 15 frames per second, no matter the settings. Did not matter if all the settings were at low, did not matter if all the settings were at high, motion blur didn't change anything, shadows made the frame rate shit itself. Also, the bloom looks like shit. But then go ahead and tell me why, because I know what he's going to say. Well, obviously, you just haven't got a chunky enough graphics card. Wah. Well, here's the thing, friend. I have a 3070 in my machine, along with a 2700X, 16 gigs of RAM, and an M.2 SSD that the game is running on. You can see in my video of the demo that the game never actually properly hits 60, it more just touches it inappropriately for a few seconds. It didn't matter whether I put graphics on high or low, I basically got the exact same results as our good camera person here, but So why? Why do the shadows not work properly on a graphics card that was built for real-time shadows and reflections? It runs Cyberpunk at 60. It should not be having trouble with Yandere Simulator, where if I go near a fucking water fountain, I suddenly get, I don't know, 25 frames per second consecutively for the entire time that I'm there. The camera person actually had a bit of a hypothesis that it seems to be whenever it's loading new areas, doors are opening, stuff like that. But even with the rendering distance set to unlimited, it still has these problems, which means it literally cannot be a rendering issue, because the game shouldn't be rendering new stuff, because it should be rendering the entire school at once, because that's what I set my fucking settings to. I'm incredibly boring, I know how different settings affect my PC's components. Yandere Simulator should not be having this problem on a computer that is more akin to a hacker's wet dream. I actually do have a hypothesis on why this could be, and you've heard this a million times. It's the script. It's the universal script that is loading every teacher and every student. You see, he says that this couldn't be the problem because the script is going at the beginning of the game, not at every frame, but the thing is, in order to load in the characters, the script would be needing to be ran every time a new character is loaded in order to make their portrait, make their model, decide what hair they have, decide if they piss blue, purple, or yellow. You know, all that good shit that's in that script, and we know is in that script because we've seen snippets of it. So that would explain some of the frame drops when new areas are being loaded, even though that shouldn't be happening when, you know, level of like fucking rendering distance is set to unlimited. But here's another thing. If that script is anything to go by, that means the script running the shadows and the script running the physics and the water, the reflections, the TVs, absolutely everything is coded in a similar sense. These scripts are actually being ran every frame, which would explain why the game doesn't run particularly well. What really needs to happen here is those scripts need to be trashed. They just need to be thrown out and rewritten from the ground up, because as it stands now, it's just nested ifs, if-elses, nary a switch or array in sight, which, even if you don't understand code to a high extent, you can probably understand is not the most efficient way to actually get a game to run. Not all hope is lost for the game though, because the game does have some pretty cool features, such as a Dance Dance Revolution style minigame, oh, and not to mention a fucking demon realm that you can just enter if you do an insanely complicated thing. Why is that in the game, but the other 9 rivals aren't? You are obviously just wasting time. What the prioritize your shit, Alex. Please, I'm begging now. Fucking please. I have ADHD and I have better time management. This script has been written, recorded, and edited within a month. And the camera person will agree, it's been an absolute fucking behemoth to do as well. And also, I have a new light, and it's very warm, and I felt like I'm going to pass out about 3 times throughout this video, the way I suffer for my art. But yeah, so as me and several other popular, equally successful creators such as Kappa Kaiju, whose merch I'm wearing right now, I promise it's just a coincidence, this is literally the only clean shirt I have at the moment, because it's hot and I'm sweating, and FPS Diesel, who I haven't watched since the Yandere Simulator videos actually, now that I think about it, have said the code's a mess, he can't prioritize, and he's a terrible game developer. The game needs to be torn down and completely rebuilt with different elements, much like the ones I've suggested in this video. But that's enough of me rambling and forgetting the script and having to look at a phone in order to remember it. So, because I have ADHD up their arsehole and I'm just bad at remembering things. So if you enjoyed this video, please go on down and hit that sexy little subscribe button along with that seductive little bell. And if you really, really are feeling saucy, you can tap the shit out of that like button. If you want to support me monetarily, on the other hand, well, you could be a right old dear, and you could donate to me £1. I'm going to be doing this thing where I make an extra video every week, Patreon exclusive. The camera person just gave me a bit of a shocked look because I hadn't even ran that past them yet. And I will also be resuming the podcast monthly as soon as I can. Along with that, you also get early access to videos behind the scenes. If you donate £5, you get your name at the end. If you donate a tenner, or if you're not British, £10, you get your name at the beginning read out, much like the lovely camera person. I know, right? I'm meant to be paying people to work, but instead they're paying me. And if you want to get involved with the community, well, I have a Discord server full of lovely, lovely people. Everyone's lovely there, especially our own lovely Logan. And if you want to keep up to date with me, I have a Twitter. DMs are open, because I hate myself. I give random insomnia tweets, random updates, random bullshit about the end user being a fucking idiot. Because I am a technician and I hate the end user so much. But thanks for watching this and listening to my bullshit. No matter what you decide to do with all those links, I have been Koto, and this has been yet another video on Yandere Dev, and specifically the concepts of Yandere Simulator. I hope you have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. Goodbye.